Blog Talk Radio.
Hello from the other side.
Now presenting
From the other side.
Channeling Erik's Hour of Enlightenment.
Hello, everybody. Hey, and a shout out to liveparanormal.com for letting us do our gig here with Erik and Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Hi, Erik. How are you doing?
Good, good. He's like, what's up, Mama? He's like, oh, I'm fine.
What?
He's like brushing off his shoulders like he's hot stuff.
Like he's all that. No, for you guys who don't know it, Erik is a spirit guide, my son who transitioned a few years ago. And he's here to answer so many questions about death, the afterlife, life as a spirit, and all things related to the human experience. But today's topic, before we take callers, is going to be, what is death? What is it like? So, Erik, what do you think? We all have to go through it, so you might as well shed some light on it.
He says, he does like a really exaggerated nod. He's like, yes, we do. We all have to go through it. And when he says that, he's actually like conveying compassion with that, because he's coming from a place of understanding that there's a lot of people that have a terrible fear of death or how they're going to die. So that's why we're here. Let's talk about it so you don't have to fear it. He's like, but whoa, my job is not to tell you how you're going to die, so don't ask. Okay. Anyways, I don't think I would want to know if I could.
I don't want to know.
I wouldn't. Ugh. But he says, well, Mom, it depends on a lot of things, what it's like to die. It depends on what happens, of course, the events that take place. But the actual transition is going to be similar among all, like across the board. So he says we can start from like past the trauma phase. If there's traumas happening, if there's illness, we can go past that. We don't have to acknowledge that right now. He wants to talk about the actual transition and what that's like.
Right.
People go through different things for certain reasons. Like he's showing like an older lady with an illness, and then he shows like a soldier passing in the middle of like battle and stuff. So different, he says passages like gateways, like different passages are determined and there's purpose in them. But the transition itself is pretty similar for most people, because there's a lot of phases that you go through. And what he means by phases, he's like tapping on his temple, and he says, like, you transition through and even transcend through different states of awareness, he says. So I said, is it right away? Is it like you just go through all these flashes of different awareness right away? And he's like, well, kind of. It's like an adjustment. Right after the physical body stops and you begin to become just the spirit body, and you shed the physical part, the spiritual part of you there's an adaptation phase, like you're adapting to the new you. And part of that means like letting go and realizing there's there's new aspects of you or different aspects of you that you take differently now. I think what he means by this is like your human way of thinking dissolves, and then it's like adjusting to that. You realize that you're a whole different being. You're a whole different type of being, and so you have. So
you go through phases. Do you go through phases to lose your humanness? Is that what you're saying?
He says yes, in short, but he's showing people like you go through these phases of expansion, if you want to call it that. He says where your awareness grows, but now because you don't have the physical body, the awareness grows, and because the awareness is there, so is thyself, he says, the self. So wherever your awareness is, so is you, your consciousness. But it wasn't like that in your physical life, because your physical body could only be in one place at one time. He's like, well, for the most part, unless you're weird, he says.
Uh-oh, that might be me.
Goodness. So he says, when you come into that just like whole body, like just the spirit body, your awareness expands, your being expands into where that awareness is, and then it's just adjusting to realizing that this is different. But then there's like a natural, he says there's a natural calm that stays with you, so you don't freak out going, holy shit, oh my gosh, I just died, things are different now. He's like, there's none of that. There's no freak out.
Does it ever hurt? Does it transition? Is there any pain involved?
He says, yeah, there is pain involved before the body, or before the soul leaves the body.
Well, not always, like if you die in your sleep, that sort of thing.
Right, not always. It just depends on the circumstances. But he says, Mom, even in some of the most traumatic, gruesome passings, it's like the trauma or the shock, like somehow he's like showing like a block over the brain, like to receive pain. It's more traumatic to the psyche than like the physical pain aspect of it. Does that make sense? Like he's showing when people have, if they have like a prolonged traumatic passing, like, oh man, he's being so graphic. He goes, well, let's say they got in a car crash, flew through the windshield, they're all cut up, and they laid there for a while before they died.
Okay. Yay!
So,
awful.
Yeah, he's so graphic. And he's showing, like, so when we think, they laid there and suffered, well, at this point, when the trauma is that loud, the trauma is that intense, it's more so, like, affecting the psyche than the pain body. So it's more, but then, of course, too, Mom, he says it depends on if you stay conscious or not. So this is all before the transition takes place. But he's showing, like, when it affects the psyche like that, when you're aware, when you're conscious of what happened, like the shock sets in and you don't feel the pain. It's like when people break their leg or have some serious gash in their leg or something, and they're like, well, it actually doesn't really hurt. It looks terrible, but it actually didn't hurt that bad. It's
right.
There's so many factors that go into that. He's like, presence with your pain, if you're present with it, if you plug into it, a lot of times it's blocked. Like the trauma affects the psyche in a way that blocks the complete reception of pain, because most of the time, if we could be complete and completely present with the pain, we would pass out more than we do because the pain is too much. We wouldn't be able to stay present with it.
Like you would just leave your body.
He's kind of like being really, that's what he said. He's like nodding his head. He goes, well, most people do. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Most people do. Because it's such a traumatic experience. But then when they become whole, now this doesn't take time. It's not like, okay, I got to shed my body, and it's going to take me some time to adjust. It's like the calm. You naturally come back into that calm self, that calm state of awareness. So, sure, there might be an adjustment phase, as in like, wow, that was quick, or that just happened. Here I am. Things are different. But it's not like it takes like this prolonged amount of time to adjust, because you're in a state of all-knowing. Now, generally, in the physical life, he says, the reason why it takes us time to adjust is because we process, we analyze, we overanalyze, we judge, we criticize, and then we feel judgment, and then we, come to like a determination. But in the afterlife, when you're whole and complete as a spirit body, it's more of a place of acceptance, more of a place, he says, of like all, he calls it all natural awareness, that you're in your natural state and you're all aware, you're all knowing. So the experiences are a little different, and that too you kind of learn and grow from. So there is like this unveiling sort of, like he's showing the vibration like rising and rising, where you're still, like when you think of something, You're present with it. You're there. So this is hard to explain. It's like when you think of something, you're there or you're present with it, and that's different. That's trippy, he says, because it's not like you can do that when you're a human. You can't just think of Turks and Caicos and just be there. Wouldn't that be great? He says.
Yeah. I'll go right now. Sign me up.
Yeah, no kidding. So getting used to things like that is interesting. It's just different. Everything's just different. But again, you're already like sort of preceded with an all-knowing. So there's no need to trigger like a freak-out mode or like a freak-out
like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? It's not like this
shit,
happened.
What the hell just
now
happened?
What's going to happen next? Yeah, you don't question that because that comes from fear. Like, that's not there. It's not here, he says. So you don't have any fear anymore, right?
He says you don't. You don't. And you really see it as, this is such a random example. He goes, yeah, because you have a new perspective. It's like looking on the ground and finding a $50 bill or a leaf. And you know, which one's more valuable? Which one could you let's say you have to go get some groceries. Well, you can't pick up the leaf and go do groceries with that. It just doesn't make sense. You don't need it. There's no value there. So he's showing like you see fear the same way. You see fear in its existence, but there's no value in it, and it's not who you are. It's not what you're a part of vibrationally.
At least when you've lost all your humanness, right?
Right, he says.
Okay. What does it feel like? Do you get like tingling in your stomach or buzzing in your head or what used to be your head? Are there any sensations that you can convey to us?
Yeah, he's talking about what it feels like and what it sounds like. He says,
oh, okay.
He's showing it feeling like, he says, you know, Mom, if you were to wave your arm in front of you, like you feel that isolated movement. Now, if I wave my arm in front of me, it's not so isolated. It's more like all of me moves. But it's smoother, like everything's more in sync. It is a feeling of floating, but it's not, he's laughing because he says when people think of floating, they think it's uncontrollable, like they're just drifting away, but that's not true. You really begin to realize what you vibrate with, you become one with or present with. And when he says what you vibrate with, what he means is, energetically what you resonate with, what you're thinking about. Can
you be more specific?
Yeah, like my girlfriend, he says. So
okay.
He says, like, when I think about her, it's not just thinking that's occurring. It's a vibrational shift. I begin to resonate in that, like in a likeness with her. Like let's say with you and Rooney, and you think about him, your vibration sort of adjusts to match him or as close to how you can get to him as you can. So, but that happens all across the board here. Whatever you think about, you are there. You become one with it. So it's a feeling of like, he says he shows like feeling happy, Mom. He says you see new things from new perspectives, from new eyes that you didn't see before. That new perspective fills you in gratitude and compassion. So he's showing having like all these perspectives of himself, but through different people, and that gives him more of an understanding of himself. And everybody has to go through this. It's like a life review. He says everybody gets to do this, but it gives you a more dynamic understanding of who you are in comparison to everybody else. And it shows you how you relate. And he's showing like, he just keeps using the word euphoria, but he's using that word to describe his motion. So
his emotions or motion? Sorry.
No, just his motion, like his movement.
Maybe motion. Gotcha.
His movement. Yeah, like his, if you could, it's like a dance. Like it's like your being is now like a dance. It's softer, more fluid movements. It's not rigid. He goes, well, at least I'm not anyway. I don't know about anybody else. But he's just joking. But
well, what is your favorite part about the whole transition process? And what is your least favorite part? The happiness, okay. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. He says he gets really soft with his energy. He says, happiness is my favorite part, Mom, because in this state, happiness naturally is there. He says, in the human state, we need things and stuff and people and events to make us happy. There's need for happiness.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
We've looked far beyond the natural state of it. So here, it's the complete opposite. You can easily see past those things as just things, and your happiness is naturally who you are. Like your peace, your joy, your consistent state of euphoria is natural. He says he also likes that, he says it's kind of cool that you can hear other people think, you can hear what they're thinking. Like there's no limits to that, there's no boundaries, but you can shut it off too. Like you don't have to be
yeah, see, that would drive me
crazy.
Yeah, good.
He says you would think, but it's you have a much greater capacity, like an internal massive, he's showing like this massive capacity to understand that, to deal with it and be one with it.
Okay.
His least favorite part of, I keep trying to ask him, like, I think we're talking about the transition, like what's your least favorite part of that?
Yeah, the transition,
talking about, like,
death itself. Right, not being a spirit, but just the transition process. Yeah,
because he's talking about his least favorite part, or like what he misses the most of like being human.
Yeah. I know one of that is touch for him.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. Like he just misses like embrace, like feeling, like physically touch. So through his transition, the hardest thing, he says, was it realizing that I didn't have that touch anymore? No. Was it realizing I couldn't pick shit up anymore? No. Was it realizing I couldn't use a physical, audible voice like you guys are used to? No. He says, the worst part of my transition was feeling what other people felt when they found out.
Oh,
it wasn't anything to do with me. But it was me and other people, Mom. It was me and you when you found out, when you saw me. It was me and all my friends and family when they found out. So he's just talking about feeling that emotion through them, like through their perspective.
Yeah, it couldn't have been pleasant for you, because it sure wasn't pleasant for us. But yeah, and I guess everybody has their least favorite part about transition. That's yours, and of course, I'm sure it's different for other people who have transitioned, but I'm sure the majority of them don't like the pain they've left behind. Even if they are 98 years old and died from, a stroke, it's still hard on the people they love, and you have to experience that.
Yeah, and he's showing, like, he says even if, he says it's not like it's, I don't feel pain like you guys do. I know it and I understand it, but I don't feel it the way that you guys do. So seeing the way my actions changed people, that was a lot to deal with. He says, because first of all, you don't realize, no matter how much you think you know or how much you try, you don't realize the impact that you have on everybody around you. You just don't. He's like, you can try to convince yourself that you know you're important, but you actually don't get it until you see how closely intertwined we all are when you come here. And then he just kind of, this is hard to say because he's like choking up a little bit. There's purpose in everything. But he says, I wish I would have given myself a better chance.
Yeah.
He's just showing like
Me too.
he feels like he didn't see his own worth, his own greatness, and he didn't give himself the chance to. He says, I knew I was a good person, and I wanted to share that, but I didn't really know. I didn't know the depths of that, and I didn't give myself time, he says, to get to know me.
That's right. If you had just waited a little bit, maybe you would have come to that realization. But you're doing great things now, so I'm grateful for that, and I'm glad you're happy.
That's what he's showing. Like he says, and he has a huge smile on his face, and he says, but I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad I get to do what I do, because that, again, it's like he says, it's like planting a seed. If it's just planting that seed of light in one soul and watching it blossom into this like radiant beam, from one tiny little speck of light to a big radiant beam, watching someone grow like that, Mom, he says, wow. He says, there's no way to explain it. Oh, I have chills.
Well, I think that's a great place to end off before we take callers, unless you have something else to say about the transition process, Erik.
He says, I just want people to know they don't have to be afraid of it. They don't have to be afraid of it because you know what you've been given, you know who you are, and you won't be given, you've heard this before, but he says, I need you to accept this thought and truly embody it and understand it. You won't be given more than you can handle. Your transition is going to be just like mine. You're going to meet calm before you know anything else. You're going to meet peace before you know anything else. It's the natural process. Of course, you go through your review, you learn things, you grow, and you expand. But you're going to meet that natural euphoria. So he says, but please give yourself a chance. He says there's a lot of people listening that will be listening that, and you know what, honestly, I've had so many people probably in the last 2 weeks reaching out, looking up Erik, knowing who Erik is, and reaching out because they are contemplating taking their life. And so it's interesting how he just has such a way of turning that around for people and making them see what he didn't get to see completely within himself, making them see it in themselves.
Wow, that's one of the big things that he does, and that's wonderful, Erik. All right, are you guys ready to take callers?
Let's do it.
All right, first, another shout-out to liveparanormal.com. I just want to give you guys a station ID because I'm really grateful to them. Now, first we're going to take somebody. Now, we were supposed to have, a couple of weeks ago, the callers call in to share how Erik has changed their lives. And I have a list of the numbers of people who would be calling in, but, of course, after 2 weeks of not having the show, because Raylene's son was so ill, I think they've fallen by the wayside. But I do see one here from the 413 area code. She's a hanger-oner, or he maybe. It's a she. Hi, Christina. How are you doing? Is that you, Christina?
It is. Hi.
Hey, thanks for sticking out the couple of weeks of downtime there,
That's no problem.
And what would you like to say to her? What's that now?
Can I be heard okay right now?
Yep. What's that now?
Okay. So Erik come through. Actually, I used to do sessions, and I thought I was really out of touch with spirit, and I questioned. I don't do them right now because of my health issues, but he's come through, and he was like one of the main guys in one of my channelings, which is really cool. It was a different type of energy to work with.
Definitely a different one. You're so right.
Yeah, it gave me relief, too, that I'm, like, in touch with a specific spirit, so to speak. Also, I don't know, I smell weed a lot.
Sorry, that's Erik.
No, that's okay, because he knows I like that probably. Also, I don't know. I have dreams. I remember my dreams a lot. I ask for Spirit to help me in my dreams, and I had a couple of apps that I sent to you through Messenger.
Right.
And that I thought I don't know if they're from Erik or not. A cousin of mine has come into my life. I'm kind of ostracized from my family because I'm weird and in the disability system. And I really thought nobody actually remembered me. And I don't know if Erik sent Spirit to her, but I have a cousin that recently connected to me, so I actually kind of feel like I have family now.
That's awesome.
Also,
Erik, did you have anything to do with that?
It's funny because every time people, because he'll straight up tell you, no, it wasn't me, and he'll tell you who it was.
Oh yeah.
But if it was him, he'll mock you. Like, that seems to be his signature thing. When you're like, oh, I wasn't sure if it was Erik, he started mocking you and rolling his eyes like, oh, I wasn't sure if it was Erik. And he's like, of course it was. So you already knew it, though. You already knew that. So he says, trust what you already know. But I think that he says that he's trying to help you to create like that stable foundation, because that's hugely what you need to believe in yourself and go like the next step. So
and what is that next step?
I don't know.
What was that?
What is that next step?
Yeah, because I have really hard days, and one day I asked him if he was like a middle child or a second born, and I didn't expect an answer because I don't hear Spirit like that just on my own. And he goes, and I don't even know if this is the correct age, he did like a rhyme, and he goes, yeah, when I was just 13. And I was like, what the heck? So I know he's around, and I watch actually an apparition really kind of scoot around when I'm doing facetious things that I know aren't helping me or the collective. I definitely do the self-sabotage a lot. So if he has anything help for me, and I am very thankful to have found him and you guys doing this, and graciously thankful for both of you for your support in that arena too. Because I don't want to be here most often. I'm in so much physical pain as well and chronic illness. And I take into account everything I hear, like not having a body. Like, I think 100 times more about how impactful what was mentioned today. Like, even if I think nobody's thinking of me, how many people it would hurt, and just what I would miss out on too, not being physical.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and Erik says he's answering Elisa when you were saying what is the next step. The next step is your health. It's moving beyond like this huge hump of whatever you're dealing with. Your health feels and seems very big. It seems very, very consuming. So I don't know if like all other areas of your life have shut down, like career, relationship, and those things, but it just seems like this is like surrounding you. So he's showing you the next step is like moving beyond that. This goes way back to a radio show we did last year, and I still remember just because of the way that it moved me, him talking about labels and how we over-identify with labels, and then we even become so fixated on those labels that becomes our identity. So whatever illness you have, of course, be mindful, pay attention, and take care of yourself. But he says remove the label from your identity. Like, you're not your illness. It's just an experience.
Well, what can she do about her? What can she do about her disability, her pain and her illness, etc.? Any advice?
He says a lot of it's up here, and he's tapping on the temple. Not saying that you're creating it, but the problem is it is so it's a master over you. So now you have to change your thinking and your thought process, your patterns. He says, Mom, the easiest way to get people to change is to break up your patterns. If you're used to, like, you know, you wake up, you have your coffee, you have your breakfast, and you go outside on the back porch and blah, 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 like, you got to do things different. You got to change your patterns and your routines, and that's how you change your energy makeup, like your vibration. It has a lot to do with what you think about yourself, but it also has a lot to do with what you do physically, too, because your thoughts are constantly like a feedback, analyzing and taking in, like receiving and sending out information based on what you're doing. So, like, for example, if you were just laying in bed, your mind's going to do one thing, right? But if you stood up and did jumping jacks, your mind's going to be doing something different. So that's what I mean. He says, when I say, like, change your physical patterns, your physical routines in your daily life, he goes, hell, I don't even care. Brush your teeth at a different time of the day. He goes, anything to make a difference.
Any little change. That's a good idea.
Because that's going to break up those pain bodies and their vibrational existence within you. So start there, he says, and master this, he says, and he's tapping on the temple, like master the thoughts. So, because you know how, like, if our back hurts, we wake up and we go, oh, my back hurts. In the afternoon, you're like, oh, man, my back's just killing me. Of course, well, we know that. We're observing that, but the more we declare it, state it, create an identity with it, and then we change our lives because of it, we're holding space for it and making it worse. So he goes, don't worry, girl, I got you. He's like, he's standing behind you with his hands on your shoulders, and he says that he'll help you, he'll influence your thoughts so that you can move through this. He's just showing you, like, kind of needing some of that strength from him.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Christina, for calling.
And is he the one in my apartment a lot when I'm doing things that are actually jeopardizing my health?
He just is really compassionate. He's not saying anything, but he has his lips pushed together, and he has, like, a compassionate face. I don't know how else to say it, but he's nodding his head, yes, like up and down.
Yeah.
So it's
all right. I'll trust in spirit more, and thank you, guys, and thank you, Erik. And it's so weird. I looked over my shoulder the second you said he has his hands on your shoulder. I didn't know you were going to say that.
Oh my gosh, cool. He's got your back, girl.
He's got your back. I hope
you
it
guys.
helps. Take care, okay?
Yeah, bye.
Tremendous.
Bye, Christina.
Bye. Thank you.
Aww.
That seems like her mood got more elevated toward the end. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Here's one from the 910 area code. 910. Hi there. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. This is Miles from North Carolina.
Miles,
how are you?
What's up? There's our Miles.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's been doing pretty good.
Good.
For the past week or so, we've had Erik all over the place out here in the yard.
Uh-oh.
Good.
Is
Dragonflies
that a good thing or
everywhere.
a bad thing?
Oh, there's dragonflies everywhere.
Oh, cool.
That is cool.
But it's
What you got for him? Do you have a question, or you just want to kind of give a testimonial about how he's changed your life?
I was wondering what my life purpose is.
He sits down and he's like, and he's like sitting up with a real, like, overly straight back. He's like nodding his head, and he's tapping his fingers together. Life purpose is different than mission, okay? He wants everybody to understand this. This is like an ongoing thing. He says, and it probably will be until the end of time. He says it's an ongoing thing. Life purpose is much different than mission. Mission is what you're here to do. Your purpose is just being. Like, you're already being your purpose. You are your purpose. And everything expressed through you is your purpose. So your mission, though, that's different. I think that's what you're asking, he says. Your mission here, it's like you, I wouldn't be surprised, I don't know if I got to figure out a term for this. It seems like you're one of those people who always help other people, but it may be at your disadvantage. So I don't know what you would call that kind of person, but like always helping other people, but you have to be able to instill balance, he says, to where it doesn't, but it seems like it's immediate family, though, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But you have to be able to instill balance so that it doesn't take away from you emotionally, physically, financially, all of those things. So it seems like...
Yes, set your boundaries. Set your boundaries, for sure.
It seems like there's, like, immediate family. So generally this is like spouses, siblings, children, and parents, like that immediate family that you continue to help, that you keep helping, or you have helped numerous of them, maybe numerous times for one person or numerous people. But it seems like it's like at your expense. So you have to be willing to look at how you can change that. Now, it's kind of like, this is hard because some people are going to misunderstand this, but that's okay. It'll resonate where it's supposed to. He says begin to, because he wants you to be able to help your family and your friends, but in a productive way where it doesn't cost you. So you have to be able to be in a place where you can see and understand that they're helping themselves too. Because it's kind of like if you constantly give and give and give, and all they ever do is take, and they don't even give to themselves, then, not just give back to you, but give to themselves, then, and help themselves, then really it's like you're just, it's just like he's just throwing money out the window. It's just like throwing energy into, to the wayside. So to be productive with the way you help people is to be willing to help only when you see that they can match you energetically. So,
I got an example. It's like you can let your new graduate from the university come live with you to save, a mortgage or apartment rent for themselves, but they can go out, get a job, and they can contribute to the rent, contribute to the utilities, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you can help them out, but they have to do something in return.
Yeah, exactly. And it's.
So what does that have to do with his spiritual mission, though, Erik?
So his mission is to know his value with himself and what he can offer, and to not offset that by doing things at his expense. Because it seems like you've been helping. There's a pattern with this, though. He keeps showing it repeat. He's putting it on repeat. So either it's happened with more than one time with the same person, or with multiple people in your family where you try to help them out and then they fall back into the same pit or whatever. So
that's so common.
He says your mission is to know for you how to balance that and no matter who that is, to know your worth and to be able to.
And you're worth a lot, Miles. I'm here to tell you, you are worth a lot.
He says, Mom, he has a lot to offer, but you got to know.
Yeah, I feel that.
Got to know when enough is enough, and you also have to know when you are enough, when you can help. So there's a balance to it. So not to underestimate what you have to give and what you have to offer, because I think you're teetering on both sides of the scale, if that makes sense. Sometimes underestimating yourself, devaluing yourself, and other times taking away from who you are, again, energetically, financially, physically, to help someone else. So begin to see where you can create more balance in those areas. There's something with romance,
great.
too. I don't know why he keeps wanting to bring this up. Maybe, I don't know if there's issues in the romantic part of your life, or if that's just a part that you're really wanting to amplify right now in your life or something, but he's saying just highlight romance and make sure you take a look at that too and give it time and space, the time and space that it needs. So I hope that helps you, Miles, and I hope it resonates with you.
Well, yeah, it does, but my biggest problem is my sister.
Oh, okay.
I have extended the olive branches. She used to cut me off.
What was that? I didn't understand what you said.
My sister, I've extended the olive branch to her. She won't even have anything to do with me anymore. That's where my problem is right now.
Why?
I'm on this lot of different medications and stuff like that. She's saying I'm a pill popper, I'm a whatever and all that mess.
Oh, okay.
That's my biggest problem.
Well, what can Miles do about that, Erik?
He says, well, first, obviously, don't react emotionally and energetically as such. Meaning, like, you don't have to defend who you are and why you are who you are. So, because it's like as soon as we do, we fall into that energy and that vibration of, like, of course, the more you resist something, the more you become it. So, and you don't have to, just remember, you don't have to explain to her who you are and why you are who you are. If it's more of a matter of accepting who you are and being okay with that. And if she can't accept that, she has insecurities that she needs to deal with. So make sure you don't mix that up, he says, with, like, again, don't let that affect your worth. If she has an inability to love you for who you are, what you're going through, then that's something she needs to work through. I mean, you could possibly help her by talking to her about that, but it sounds like she might not be so open. So just whatever you do, don't let it affect your worth, because it's an insecurity on her part.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a little talk with Erik today on the board.
Oh, cool.
Oh, good.
It was him.
He says,
cool.
He said in response, he just says, keep it in your heart. So I don't know what that means to you, but sometimes it's funny because he'll cup his mouth, and that's his way of saying, like, from him to you. So I can't translate that for you, and he's doing that intentionally. He does that sometimes if he doesn't want
Miles
to know
and Erik's
details.
got a secret. There we go.
He just says, keep it in your heart. So whatever you guys talked about with the board or whatever you experienced, he says, keep it in your heart. But it's him. He says, I want you to know it's me. I want you to keep me in your heart, too.
I will.
Miles,
okay, Miles, thanks for calling.
I love when I get to talk to you. Your accent reminds me of my
got a great voice.
Virginia.
I know, but he's got a great voice, very soothing voice.
Yeah.
All right, Miles, thanks for calling in.
Take care, Miles.
Y'all have fun.
You too.
Bye, you too.
Guess what? We got another one from the 910 area code. How you doing?
Hello?
Can you? Hey.
This is Belinda.
Hi,
Belinda. What you got for Erik?
Well, I earlier this year I found out he was one of my guides, helping me with my spirituality and to channel. And I wanted to know if I'm blocking myself from things because of the split up with my husband, if it's blocking me from being able to feel him around anymore. If he has a message for me or anything like that.
Well, you have a problem feeling who? You have a problem feeling
Erik.
your husband or Erik? Oh, Erik. Okay,
Erik.
gotcha. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, my husband left, and I'm disabled.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Well, tell her, Erik, what do you have to say?
Yeah, this is what he's saying, Belinda. He says he wants you to understand when people go through different things in their life, they experience different emotions. And this is like all across the board in your life, so it's not just related to the divorce or anything like that. He says it's just all areas of your life. We all go through different things that trigger and elicit emotional reactions, and those emotional reactions alter our vibration. Okay? So we all know that. That's no secret. It alters who we are at any given time. The trick is, he says, when you can bypass that altogether, your emotional state, and sort of like put it away, lock it up, then you become more clear. He says, I haven't gone anywhere. He's like, has his arms wide open but kind of down. He's like, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm right here. But you change because you're more of an emotional being than I am. So the way you perceive spirit is going to change. He goes, just like it has with Kim. So the way that I experience spirit changes too. I look back for some years ago, and I'm like, man, the stuff that came through in those readings was just wild. So now it's moved and it's progressed in different ways, and it will with you too. So be mindful of a couple things. He says you need to get better rest or sleep. I don't know if you're just feeling like chronically fatigued or something, but there's a feeling of like being tired and sluggish. He says you need to rest better. He also says the more you believe a thought, the more you create that experience too. So don't believe that you're blocked. Don't believe that because you went through something that you can't hear me or can't experience spirit in the same way. Because the more you believe that, the more you experience that reality. So just be very mindful. He says you're still clear as day. You just have to trust it, and you have to shift your awareness back to that instead of... because
yeah, just tell yourself you are open. You are wide open, girl. Just tell yourself that.
Yeah, and you know what I said? He's like telling me to tell you this. Years ago, when I decided like that I would sort of surrender to this whole thing, I literally said to the universe, like, okay, if I'm supposed to be a vessel and use this, then open the floodgates. I'm here. I literally said those words, and boy, did I get what I asked for. Probably more than what I asked for. So
yeah,
he's
really.
saying, like, you can say the same thing. You can put yourself into that awareness, but don't try to be aware of spirit and hear spirit and channel the same time you're aware of your bills and your emotions and the shit that pissed you off yesterday and the stuff you're worrying about tomorrow, because those are all filters. So you have to be able to completely separate from those, all that shit, he says, and then be your true self again. He's like really stimulating the third eye and the ears. So you must be like very clairvoyant, clairaudient. So trust it again, like you used to, he says.
Okay,
I hope that helps, Belinda.
It helps a lot.
Good.
Just tell him I just want him to visit. Let me know. He's there. It just brings me down when I just feel alone.
Oh, he will. Be careful.
He'll be there for you.
Because I'll never ask him to prank me again ever. Because he called 911 from my house, and I was like, dude, you realize it is like a misdemeanor or something illegal when you prank the cops. I was like, anything with that. Don't get the freaking law involved.
Really,
that's
please.
okay. Now, no 911.
Yes. Thanks for calling in, Belinda.
Thank you guys for everything y'all do.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Oh, we got a lot of Southerners today, just like me. I
know, I love it.
And the South shall rise again. No, not really. 805 area code. Let's see who we got here. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Kim. Hi, Lisa.
Hey.
Hi, Erik.
Hi.
Who are we talking to?
This is Tiki.
Tiki.
Oh, hi.
Awesome.
We've talked to you before, right?
Hi,
Yeah.
how are you doing? I wanted to ask Erik if he had any messages for me. I've been going through a lot of things lately, and I was wondering if he had anything that he wanted to share with me.
Sure. You know, anytime people leave it open like this, Erik, first thing he does is he'll show me a color, which references the chakra, and then that's where he goes into talking about what he wants to talk about with you. And he with him, he's showing like the bottom two chakras, and this is where, oh gosh, don't take offense to this, but he says,
oh God,
he goes, yikes, he goes, it looks like spaghetti, like your chakras. We would like them to be like a nice whole, like bowl of light, like a ball of red and a ball of orange or whatever. But he's like, they're all mixed up. It looks like spaghetti, and it's all intertwined between the root chakra and the sacral. What does this mean? He says, okay, let me break it down. You need to work on like emotional stability and security, like confidence, but with family members. Like there's something going on with relationships where you're feeling unstable or insecure, and it's messing with your emotions, and it's messing with And then, of course, like as it's pulling on your emotions, he says, you're experiencing new sides of yourself. It's making you go, oh my gosh, like who am I? What have I become? Like what is this? What am I going through? So you're kind of having like this drastic look at yourself in a new way. And he says, it doesn't matter what you go through. Stay open and accept it as an experience, not an identity. Don't let it define you, because that's when the emotions, like, he says, that's when the emotions get you tripping and get you sort of all jacked up. But so there must be something going on with, like, personal relationships that's really triggering, like, an emotional battle. And then that emotional battle that's happening within yourself is making you look at yourself in a new way, like, man, what is this? What's going on? Like, you know, when I say what have I become, it's not a negative reflection. It's more of like he's showing you going, what have I become? Like, who is this? Who is this person? Like, why am I so emotional? Or why is this happening? This isn't like me. Like that kind of a feeling. So, and you know, of course.
Well, you know, we just had a session on chakras, Erik. So is there anything she can do, like we talked about, for example, eating or ingesting any kind of anything that's red or orange, like cherry tomatoes, orange juice, you know, corresponding to the colors of those two lower chakras, or aromatherapy, like some of the woodier scents like cedar and sandalwood and patchouli? Will those things help her at all?
Yeah, he says all of those, Mom. He says, Tiki, if you want to do like aromatherapies to help stabilize, he likes that word better than balance, like stabilize the energy in those two first chakras. Look at like cedarwood, patchouli, and sandalwood, just like Elisa said, and that'll help stabilize the energy there. He said, but for you, probably the most powerful thing. Ingesting, too. If you can ingest foods that are red and orange or drinks, that's going to help, too. It's going to stabilize the energy there. He also says visualization is going to be key. He says, I want you to practice visualizing, like red being its own ball of light and being self-fulfilled, like its light comes from within itself. Same thing with the orange, because it's like the emotions are so tangled up with the root chakra that it's affecting your motivation, your passion, and all sorts of stuff. So same thing with the orange chakra and your emotional state. Picture those as like two different balls of light, but they're not separate. They, of course, communicate to each other, but you don't want them to be so tangled up. And then lastly, look at, you know, whoever it is that's triggering these reactions within you, look at the identity you've created with that person, because it's in some way you've given away your power. Let's say, for example, it's like a marriage, and maybe you're having a major falling out. You're going, wow, I didn't even know myself outside of this marriage. I don't know who I am. I have no sense of self or individuality or anything like that. So now you're facing all of those. This is just an example. Now you're having to, like, get to know yourself again in a new way. So look at wherever these emotions are being triggered in relationships. Look at how in those relationships you've kind of given up who you are. It's almost like letting them kind of dominate the relationship or the friendship. Hard to explain.
Okay, guys, we're going to run into another show, so we better cut it off here. Tiki, thank you for calling. And again, I want to do a shout-out. Oh, thank you.
Thanks for everything you do.
I want to give a shout-out to LifeParanormal.com, and we've got exciting news. Kim, don't you? You have a new book that just came out. Can you tell us how we can get that book?
I'm so excited. Finally, it's out. It's ready. It's live on Amazon, you guys. It's called Inside Out, and it's inspired by all of you guys and the struggles you've been through and the way you've overcome those struggles and the common threads that I've seen in between all of that. And so it's called A Journey, or Inside Out, A Journey to Inner Peace. So it just kind of teaches you how to master all of those things that you're trying to overcome so that you can maintain inner peace. Check it out on Amazon. Thank you guys so much for listening, and it feels so good to be back. I've had a 3-week hiatus, and it feels so good to be back.
Awesome. We're glad to have you back, girl. Bye, Erik. I love you. I love you, everybody who's listening. I love you all. Love you, Kim. Hope you guys
Love you
enjoyed
too.
the
This is
show,
fun,
and
Mom.
I will post this on the blog and on social media very shortly. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The celebration is building at the Honda Perfect Accord sales event with deals on the 2017 Accord. It's the only car to make Car and Driver's 10 Best list a record 31 times.
No way.
So race into the Honda Perfect Accord sales event, where well-qualified buyers can get 0.9% APR on the 2017 Accord.
Car and Driver, January 2017. See dealer for financing details.